بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نيابة عن سعادة الدكتور جمال سند السويدي.
On behalf of Dr. Jamal Sanad Al-Swaidi, Director General of the ECSSR, I would like to welcome you this evening with a seminar entitled Do Political Religious Groups Possess Applicable Development Plans? The Case of the Muslim Brotherhood. Insights from the Mirage, held by Dr. Abdulhamid Al-Ansari. He is a Qatari scholar, writer, and academic, holds a PhD in religious politics from Al-Azhar University in the year 1980. He is currently a part-time professor at the College of Law at the University of Qatar. He has written several books, most notably The Impact of Shura on Democracy, Regulations for Organ Transfer and Transplant in Shariaa and Law. Most of his writings have been studied and distributed all over the world. Dr. Abdulhamid Al-Ansari has so many expertise. He has worked on developing the Islamic methodologies and developing the legislations of the household in Qatar. Allow me to call on Dr. Abdulhamid Al-Ansari to relay his address. In the name of God Almighty, the most gracious, the most merciful. I would like to start thanking Dr. Jamal Sanad Al-Swaidi on this kind invitation because he has invited me to relay this seminar and lecture. Thank you all for attending this lecture today as well. In reality, we should really be thankful to our parents. I would like to reiterate a phrase that I often reiterate in every occasion. If we mention the efforts exerted by our parents, this is of vital importance, and to really mention the accomplishments, also to relay these accomplishments to the parents. This is a question which really makes it a challenge for the religious groups emanating from religion and which is keen on having the power through establishing a cultural political program. Do religious groups, political religious groups, possess an applicable development plan? This is the question. The answer for this question remains to be seen. I take the answer from the book of Dr. Jamal Sanad Al-Swaidi. It's an encyclopedic book, the Mirage, Al-Sarab, which has been given so many appreciation from so many people. From the vision and the inspiration of the Mirage, the book The Mirage, we all know that these political religious groups, and throughout 5 decades, inspire the public that it has the solutions for the problems of contemporary societies. If you go back to the Islamic and religious library, you find hundreds of books which is called Islamic Solutions for the Economic Problems for Our Contemporary Societies. And all this can be concluded in the following slogan: Islam is the solution. I remember that throughout the communist regime, communism was the answer. And the solution afterwards, so many solutions came along, but now Islam is the solution. Islam is the solution. They have something to say in the affairs of politics and society and so on, but Islam did not bring about a detailed program for the economic affairs, general principles and rules, values that build mankind and the rationale. But political religious groups inspire the public and tell them that it has economic, political, societal programs without being able to translate this program on the ground. We shall ask the question once again, do political religious groups possess applicable development plans? Is it applicable? This is what's important. Of course, there are theories. Definitely, I'm not saying that we don't have theories. The theories, the political religious groups, of course, especially Muslim Brotherhood, they have books, social justice, for instance, and others, other books, so many other books. But these plans, are they applicable? This is a very important, primordial question. Before we answer this question, let us clarify as a beginning the reasons behind the arrival of the religious political groups and its success in riding the wave of the Arab Spring. The public, for instance, in Egypt, when they chose the Muslim Brotherhood to take power, did they think that they have solutions for their economic problems, for unemployment, development? I imagine that there were no convictions whatsoever. But what happened, that former projects and former plans throughout 6 decades, especially in Egypt, for instance, did not achieve the desired development, despite that those who came as revolutionaries, as military men, they promised the public and the society so many promises and gave them so many slogans: the liberation of Palestine, Arab unity, the establishment of development plans, complete holistic democracy, and so on and so forth. But after 5 decades, nothing has been achieved. Nothing at all. No development plans, no liberation of Palestine, no democracy, and no unity whatsoever. This allowed people to elect religious groups, thinking and hoping that they can try them and perhaps they might have solutions for their problems. Therefore, I say that the Arab Spring has given the opportunity for the Islamism to be or to take power, because there is a public depression vis-à-vis former projects and disappointment since no development was achieved. But the Arab Spring has disclosed the truth of the Islamic assumption that they have they have solutions for the problems of the contemporary societies. The public discovered the lies of these assumptions. It was only theories, that's all, with no solution whatsoever. Our societies have been convinced after the arrival of the Islamists to power that there are no religious solutions for our problems. They are scientific solutions. Islam can really guide the economy. For instance, I can say that I can say words in the affairs of the society. They are a guidance that push towards social justice, but they have no political and economic or social system. Therefore, we say that Islam is not separated from the society and the affairs of the public. They have something to say, but they are guidance and principles and values, constructive values. And it says that you know better in the affairs of the society. The affairs of the society are human affairs and not otherwise. The economic solutions are one and only. In the West or in the East, they are one and only. I cannot really rediscover the bandwagon once again. I cannot do that. I shall mention, inspired by the Mirage, what did Dr. Jamal in his book say about this issue? The Islamists do not have applicable development plans, and that the state of the societies that have been deceived by the Islamists is similar to those who have been deceived by the Mirage. The public thought that the Islamists had solutions, and they discovered that it was only a mirage. And this is what the publisher of the book, Dr. Jamal, says about this issue, and in so many pages that ascertains this mirage. Page 13 in the preamble says that the state of the societies of some of the Arab and Islamic countries, those who thought that religious political groups will be of help and thought that they had the ability to really correct things and achieved their development ambitions and to cross via their societies to peace. This is similar to those who have been deceived by certain phenomena. In other pages, the writer shows the deception relayed by those people because they have no solutions and no alternatives. Because this is not only linked to millions of Islamic people and societies, but this fake feeling that they had the solution, which is enrooted also within these people. So the slogans and the figures of these groups, they think that they have the solutions. They try to convince people that they have the solutions, but they don't. These groups felt for so long they had development plans capable of bridging the gap. And therefore, Muslim Brotherhood, when they reached power, they had something which is called the Project of Renaissance. And the Egyptians found out later that this project is nothing. There is nothing called the Renaissance Project. It is only a kind of a theory and not applicable, and therefore we shall talk about this, the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, afterwards. This feeling, deceptive feeling, wasn't only in vain. Why did they think that they have the solution? It was as a result of the closeness and lack of openness, self isolation imposed on those groups. Therefore, they were lagging behind any development. They think they have economic solutions. How come? And you're not open to the world at all. The system of al-zakat, al-ushur, these financial resources of the Islamic State. Abu Yusuf, the student of Abi Hanifa, spoke about the financial resources during the days of the Abbasids. Therefore, if you are not open towards others, you think that these are the solutions, but they are not. Dr. Jamal mentioned why the Islamic and religious groups and in Egypt, they thought that they had the solution. It says that the Egyptian government turned into a copy of the Western countries to criticize the Islamists to our countries that we are followers of the West and they will achieve real economic stability and independence. And you always see that those who think and call for independence, intellectual independence, economic independence, political independence, they are keen and they want to impose and be hegemonic under the slogan of independence. When you dismantle the religious speech, they presume that and they say that we are against Islam. Why? Because they want to be hegemonic more than their predecessors, and therefore the speech that says and that it wants to liberate people, in reality they are liberating people so that they impose their own hegemony on them. And this has added its traditional role on bridging the gap emanating from the failure of the Egyptian government to meet the needs of their people. The Egyptian government did not meet the needs of their people, and therefore these groups went to the people to help poor families through zakat and so on and so forth. But there's a difference between zakat and between an economic system, to have an economic system. Dr. Jamal explains the reasons behind the lack of any program. The main problem, he says, from the performance of these groups was and still is that its politics depend on reaction. And this is true, that the political religious groups, whether the groups that are politicized or moderate, their programs are as a reaction against the current regime to convince people that we have a solution. Any governmental regime has pores, has gaps, and therefore they take advantage of all this societal cry, and they behave as a result of a reaction, and reactions do not really construct. Why? Because you are behaving as a result of a reaction, and the reaction is always or always lacks any moderation. So the project of development, you should have something in the beginning to establish something, and it shouldn't be as a reaction. And in reality, the reaction has governed most of the programs, political programs and economic programs, whether for these religious groups or the opposition groups, the leftists and the nationals. This is the policy of reaction, does not build anything at all. For instance, the religious groups do not have any plans or programs to solve any hard theories in unemployment and so on, and left so many poor people suffer, and kept on saying theories without any tangible work on the ground. Let us talk about the experience of the Muslim Brotherhood in governing Egypt, because this is an example. In reality, after the failure of the experience, all experts, all economists, all analysts have said that the Muslim Brotherhood did not have any program, economic and social program, and what was said about the Renaissance program was only a theory, not applicable, due to some evidence that the Muslim Brotherhood have copied the policies of a former regime. They implemented the same policies of Mubarak that they have toppled, whether in the economic guidance, political guidance, and even international relations. And the best person who has characterized this experience of copying former regimes, the intellectual Rafat Sayyid Ahmad, who said that the government of the Muslim Brotherhood was a new system of the system of Mubarak, but with a beard. And as such, we found the Muslim Brotherhood expanding in their own external aid and assistance, the same as Mubarak. And when they reached the regime, they called the Western financial assistance as something religious. So they considered it as religious, but during Mubarak's reign, they considered it as something harmful. So how is that possible? They used to criticize Mubarak about all these Western help, and they used to say that he is a follower to the West, and the leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood, they used to really lead the campaigns of opposing American products. Back then, during Mubarak's regime, and they used to call against America, and then suddenly they became allies to America. Even one of the main leaders has announced that the alliance of the Muslim Brotherhood with America is a strategic alliance. How come you were in the opposition and used to attack the old regime, and now that you are in power, you became allies? How is that possible? And how everything which was opposed by them during Mubarak's regime now is acceptable to them, and they called for being allies, and they called for respecting Camp David. Before that, they used to instigate the public against Camp David back then. What happened during a year of the rule of the Muslim Brotherhood? The economic situation became very, very bad, and the Egyptian economy became what is called, quote unquote, a begging economy. Hope for a better future turned into a disappointment, and the economic challenge was the biggest challenge that the Muslim Brotherhood faced, and which exacerbated the lack of the situation. There were so many protests and manifestations in a similar environment that really worsened the touristic situation and the economic situation. And the Muslim Brotherhood put away the best expertise that they can find within the government, and they really went or abided by the public chaos. They were keen on destabilizing the situation of the law, and this is the worst thing that can happen in history. They tried to really being skeptical in their judgment. The Egyptian justice was a great barrier against the Islamization of the society and to terrorize the law, and they were keen on changing the identity of the country, and the future of Egypt became threatened in its civil principles and its tolerant environment and its Arab identity, to the interest of their own interest, of course. And the great shock of the public, and this is very important. They lack the ethical element. Me, as a religious group, I am saying that I'm better than the leftists or otherwise. Why? Because I have the ethics or the values. I do not deceive, I do not do this and that, because the teachings of the God, and they used to say that the ethical element should be prominent, and the public discovered that they are similar to others, maybe worse when it comes to the ethics. They used to give so many promises and promise to really abide by the rules, and things in Egypt reached a very grave situation. The Egyptian society missed its stability, but then suddenly, in the greatest protest ever in Egypt, which was called the Revolution of the 30th of July. The army supported this revolution, and those who really expressed this grave was Dr. Sultan Al-Qasimi, when he said, the ruler of Sharjah, of course, the most prominent expression what happened in Egypt. He said that the Arabs were about to fade away had it not been for the Egyptian revolution back then. This is the most explicable situation. All the experiences of the Islamists did not achieve their own objectives. Why? Because there is no program, and the economic background is a trade program. They are no millionaires. Why? Because they bought and sold real estate investments in real estate and so on and so forth. Dr. Ammar Ali Hassan, in his book, he called it the religious capitalism. Capitalism, called in religious words the experience of the Muslim Brotherhood, is applicable on other experiences, with a difference in the rate of success or failure, but they did not really offer a good, sound development plan, regardless of any other experiences. Dr. Jamal really has explained the success of the Turkish experience. Let us say that the economic experience of the rule of the Wilayat al-Faqih system in Iran. Iran is the biggest country that has resources. I always say that God has distributed all the wealth and the resources on the peoples of the world in justice. but God has given Iran everything, all resources, oil, gas, animal resources, caviar, fish, carpet, everything. Iran has everything, all resources. But after 37 years of the revolution, now the rate of unemployment is the highest unemployment rate. The rate of corruption is the highest rate. Where is the experience? There are other experiences in the past 15 years, successful development plans. The experience of the UAE is a very successful development experience. Also, the experience of Sudan since the military coup in June 1989, and it has resulted in wars and schism. The economic experience in Gaza of the rule of Hamas, no election whatsoever. If they reach the power, the Islamists reach power, you cannot really take them out of the rule except with being toppled. So sometimes their policies is linked to those who fund them. 5 years of Taliban rule, for instance. Very bad years. They prohibited everything, the constitution of Taliban, which is very bad. I called it even the birds were prohibited to sing. They have produced war and the trade of drugs. Taliban, yes, trade of drugs. The economic experience of ISIS, which is based on wars and selling archaeology, taxes, stealing oil. In conclusion, they are closed ideologies, either for the interest of the caliphate or the system of the Wilayat al-Faqih. Thank you.
شكرا للدكتور عبد الحميد.
Thank you, Dr. Abdulhamid Al-Ansari, for this great lecture. We open the floor for discussion and Q&A. Kindly introduce yourselves and be brief so that we give the opportunity for other participants. I am a journalist from Morocco. I would like to mention something that I see is of vital importance. Those who vote in the Arab world for the groups of religious politics, they don't have economic concern. They see in these groups a gate to heaven. And if we go back to the questions that were discussed after the Arab Spring, we talk about the hijab and so on and so forth. As for the economic questions, they were really not discussed and ahead of the era where the Muslim Brotherhood has governed and the religious political groups. I cannot see the characteristics of any economic system. In Morocco, there is a different experience. The party there is governing the country, and there is an insinuation that they are following up the policy of the World Bank. My question for you, Dr. Ansari, how can the systems that are fighting these religious political groups and say that they are a threat to security and the society to offer the alternative, which might really eliminate those who want to enter? Because at the end of the day, if you leave things as they are and there is need for change, you are really giving them a plate. You are giving them all the opportunity to really have their own experience that really promise the people for everything, but at the end of the day, they cannot really give them anything.
Assalamu alaikum. Assam al-Aidi.
Assalamu alaikum. I would like to welcome Dr. Abdulhamid Al-Ansari in Abu Dhabi. What is the reason behind the failure of the Islamic Muslim Brotherhood in power? What lacks these Muslim Brotherhood to govern and be like similar groups that governed before? In general, all the Arab countries who used to hold the power previously, it had pros and cons. In the future, the groups that want to govern, why don't they take these cons and try to change it? The former groups who were reigning back then, they were the choice of the people. They chose them. And former groups, they were chosen by the people. There was democracy. Now the new groups, yes, perhaps there is democracy and people has chosen, but is the people, will the people be responsible for their choice, yes or no? Thank you, Dr. Al-Ansari, once again. I am an economist. It's the first time that I attend this lecture. Thank you for the organizers. In reality, I have 2 points, Doctor. The first point, it seems that the thesis, your own thesis, was that the Islamists, they presume that their objective is development. I do not want to call them Islamists, but Islamic. Their rules and principles not necessarily talk about an objective, that their objective is to achieve development. I remember that I read for Sheikh Nasser Al-Fahd the reality of the Arab civilization. The thesis that who said that the Islamic civilization is a materialistic civilization, we are ethical, and so on and so forth. How can we criticize them? And they said from the beginning, they said that I will not achieve development, I will implement the God's Shariaa. One of the philosophers said once, does God order us to do something because it is good, or that it is good because God ordered us to do? And the Sharia should be worshipping Sharia, not something else. We are implementing the Sharia not to achieve an economic development, but we are implementing it because God wants us to do so. There's another point that I want to hear your own perspective, the differentiation between the religious text and the religious rationale. Of course, the religious text is a godly text. Everyone believes in it, but the religious rationale is the human eye that reads this text. To criticize the religious rationale is not necessarily a criticism of God. Thank you. Thank you. I have no answer, comprehensive answer for all your questions, but I think that what you have mentioned are additions. Of course, these religious groups, whether Islamic or Islamists, its objective was bigger than that of the economic aspect. Its main objective was that the Sharia is not applicable. And we used to be accused that our countries do not implement any Sharia after the demise of the Caliphate in the year 1924. And even Sheikh Hassan al-Banna has established the Muslim Brotherhood is a reaction. Even their establishment is a reaction on the demise of the Caliphate. So the objective is to revive the Caliphate through breeding and organizing the people. And therefore, the issue that our countries are not implementing the Sharia, or else when we reach, we shall implement the Sharia. This is a very ambiguous understanding, because the Sharia is what exactly? They do not say what, how are we implementing the Sharia? And this is what needs dismantling. Therefore, our societies, we implement the Sharia. Islam is good and in well-being. Now, those who take heed of the Quran and the Hadith are more than the people who used to take heed of the Quran before the mosques. People go to mosques now. All the facade of religion are there. This was a main accusation before. 1. 2, our systems are followers. They follow, and our leaders are the product of the West. This was always the accusation. But the economic side wasn't important to them. No, yes, it was important. They used to really promise people of really moving forward with the economic stance. They have the solutions and the ethics and the values of the Muslim Brotherhood. In particular, how did Islam really solve the economic solution and the poverty and so on and so forth? A part of the program is about this, because people did not elect them knowing that they the Muslim Brotherhood will take them to really paradise. No, not only that. I'm interested. They are interested in the economic programs. As for the Moroccan experience, I would like to tell you, Abdulhamid, who is the Prime Minister and Secretary General for the Party of Justice and Development, has said, he is known by this slogan, his message to Muslim Brotherhood. He said, I'm not part of the Muslim Brotherhood. This is what he said, first of all. And people have elected my party. This is what he said, not because to implement the Sharia or to impose our religious guidance on them. They have elected us to solve their own economic problems. This is what he said, mainly. When you ask about the alternative, not only the other parties that have other alternatives, but the other parties do not say that if you don't elect me, you will enter into hell. They do not really use the word of punishment and reward. They have a human experience which is able to be or should perhaps might fail or be a success, but to dismantle all these words, I don't have a solution necessarily, and not others as well, and it's not to us of the opposition to have the solution, but to really make people believe that when they elect us, you will solve their problems, and deep down you're not sincere. We should disclose this, because, and I dismantle and differentiate between being opportunist and a pragmatist. Both words are different, and when I say something when I'm in the opposition, when I reach the power, I say something else. I have an ethical element as a political group. When I say something in the opposition, and when I reach the authority and the power, I should really implement what I said before. If I infringe a religious principle, I call it opportunist, a political group that attacks America and Israel, and the economic follow-up after reach the rule, they reiterate and copy the same as the old rule. This is opportunism. Some people say, why are you criticizing them? No, there's a difference. As a religious group, as an ethical group, how can they really change? Politics is a game. Yes, perhaps they might lie, and therefore we always say that we should keep religion away from the games of politics because they are dirty politics and dirty games. What they lack in reality, their failure in the role, and this is what I understood from your question, they lack being modest. They should be modest. They shouldn't be arrogant. They really attack the West and attack the modern civilization and think that they have the solutions, and their solutions are better than others, and they should be the leaders of the world. And this, in reality, we should have a bit of modesty. We don't want them to behave otherwise. We don't want them to claim that they are better. I accept the Muslim Brotherhood as a political group, and as nationals, they have the right to participate in the elections. But why they are skeptical and others, why are they imposing their own perspectives and change their own identity? The political game doesn't mean that when you reach the rule, you will destroy everything. You will leave after several years. Why would you change the identity of the society? This is Egypt. Songs, Kulthum, Abdul Wahab. This is Egypt. You want to change its identity? How is that possible? It's impossible. And therefore, it is not the right of any political group, if they reach authority and power, to really infringe the games or the rules of the game. This is a game. There are rules that you agreed upon. You reach the authority and the power. You have your own developmental plans and programs. This is something. But at the end of the day, you are destroying everything. You are starting from scratch. And it is not the right of any political group, religious political group, to really pretend that their own understanding of religion is the true understanding. The umbrella of Islam includes everyone, all political groups. They have an economic program. It's the right. When I see a program, a leftist program or a communist program, wanting to help poverty, it is their right in social justice. And Sayyid Qutb, when he said this, he is the same, but with the umbrella of Islam. They cannot really pretend that their own understanding of Islam is the true understanding of Islam. The leftists, the communists, the seculars, all those, yes, they are under the umbrella of Islam. And in Islam, there are jurisprudences and visions and perspectives, whether in politics, social aspect or otherwise. There's no problem in terminology whatsoever. Political Islam, I mean by that so many things. Their own literary on liberating development. Yes, we should be focusing on this. Some politics, society, and so on and so forth. They pretend that they have the alternative, the better alternative for all that is there, whether in the economic aspect, political aspect, social aspect, and even in art. They have their own jurisprudences. The religious rationale and the intellect. The intellect is a human aspect that differs according to the changes of life. This religion or this text, when it comes to the ground, becomes glad in reality. And here, the jurisprudent explains the text according to his own social aspects. If he is against women, he will say that he is against women. Against Christians, he will say that he is against Christians, and puts the text accordingly. But if you are in a developed and advanced society, you have a different intellect of Islam, an advanced intellect. You have experiences in Indonesia. The main thing is the social culture that brought about this thinking and rationale. The culture governs him more than the text. In the name of God Almighty, the most gracious, the most merciful, Ahmad Ibrahim Ahmad, the Sudanese embassy. We would like to thank the ECSSR, headed by Dr. Jamal Sanad Al-Swaidi. It is an opportunity to learn. We have benefited a lot. It is not the first lecture that we attend. We have benefited a lot. We thank Dr. Abdulhamid Al-Ansari on this very valuable lecture. We have mentioned in this scientific podium that we are in dire need to take heed of the social sciences in our Arab nations and to focus on content. What I've benefited from in this lecture, we want to develop the culture of the idea and the other, the perspective and the other perspective. And the perspective and the other perspective leads to developing politics and society and so on. There was you've mentioned in the lecture that any experience should be subjected to the scale of scientific criticism. Sudan is not an exception, but I would like to mention that, and I hope that Dr. Abdulhamid Al-Ansari would understand me, that the wars in Darfur and the South wars started before the independence of Sudan. The revolution in Sudan started in the year 1955, before the independence of Sudan in a year. This is what experiences and differentiates experience of Sudan. All political currents in Sudan have really contributed or led in solving this problem. At its end, it has after 2011, this has ended in the schism of Sudan. Of course, unfortunately, this wasn't the ambition of Sudan. It was a necessity. Either we continue the war and the capabilities of Sudan fade away, or we agree to this division and to reach independence even on a relative basis. In the name of God Almighty. Nasr Al-Karbi, Executive Member at the Council of Arab Youth at the Arab League. The young are the most affected by this. Is the household is the main reason behind their belonging to these political groups, and what is the role of the family in really resisting these fundamentalist ideas and groups? I'm from the ECSSR. I would like to thank Dr. Abdulhamid. I think that he has concluded in a very few words and short time. And I think that the Mirage has spoken about everything regarding political religious groups or political religious currents. My first question, it is not a question, it is a kind of a certain discrepancy. Isn't it really bad to resemble these political groups, to resemble them to the leftist groups, these leftist groups that it spoke to the cultured entity and a certain era of the development of the society. And the same applies to other groups where they spoke to really some entities and really spoke about their own identity even. And it is a matter of rational action and reaction. As for the Islamic currents, I think that they haven't really spoke about the Arab mentality. They have taken advantage of the religious enthusiasm that we have been suffering from since the 70s. This process is not just. And when we compare, we are talking, when we compare as if we are talking about a sickness, when we compare or talk about political religious groups, for me, it is not a sickness. A sickness is a kind of religious hallucination present in the Arab societies. I would like to mention that it taken advantage of the presence of religious hallucination. Thank you. Thank you for the questions. As for Your Excellency the Ambassador, I think I do not blame, and I understand perfectly the circumstances. I am only personifying. This is the result. Its reasons, its justifications. There might be justifications, definitely, but I'm not really entering into this. I'm talking about the results. I have opened a trade or commercial project. After 10 years, I went bankrupt, and this is the result. If I spoke about the competitors or the enemies and so on and so forth that led to my bankruptcy, this is something else. But the result is I went bankrupt. As for the household and the young, the household is upbringing and really resisting against sicknesses similar to the vaccinations of children against sicknesses and viruses. The same applies here. There should be vaccination, an educational vaccination, an ethical vaccination against viruses of fundamentalism. And most importantly, in the upbringing is what is called the opportunity for children to discuss. Not to really be violent, to develop, but to develop their character, to make them feel their own importance. Why? Because you are upbringing a mentality that thinks. How can we really do that? This is important. What follows, or the people who follows these religious political groups, are the people who are weak in their character, who have been violated and violated during their childhood, and they are weak and full of complications. These people who follow these religious groups. As for the unjust and despotism, this is not against the Muslim Brotherhood or otherwise. I don't know if you mean if we compare them, compare the leftists to the Muslim Brotherhood. No, it is not a comparison, but these are groups that worked in politics as well. And they have really worked in politics. They have presumptions, definitely. They have references. And it is true that these people have spoken to the Arab emotions, but religion is a very important and effective element. The Islamists have spoken to the religious emotions, and religion is a much more effective element. And there's an old saying for King Abdulaziz, the late King Abdulaziz. He said that the bird is free. Those who befriend him become free. So religion is a very effective element, especially in our societies. If in the West and in America, they said that they are talking now about return to the element of ethics. The religion is of vital importance. If they have this this weapon, it's a very strong weapon. When they say that when God said, "What can you say?" Lenin says, Marx says. So I think that I agree that I agree with you because the whole entity, the cultural religious entity, is sick and weak, and these are all symptoms. Fundamentalism is a symptom of sickness. That's true. And therefore, we should really vaccinate the whole societal entity.
في نهاية
At the end of this lecture, I would like to reiterate on behalf of Dr. Jamal Sanad Al-Swadi, Director General of the ECSSR, Emirates Center for Strategic Studies and Research, all the thanks and appreciation for Dr. Abdulhamid Al-Ansari and all the appreciation for the attendees. I call you to attend also dinner. Thank you very much.